Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Gaul. I come to you here from Staten Island, New York. And the reason I wanted to come share my story is because I learned a lot about how to approach life differently and in a more positive way by really getting curious about my food and my health. I was in a place in my early adulthood where I was looking at those things as not important at all. I really felt totally wrapped up in work, stress, in emotions that I didn't feel like I had control over. And it wasn't until I started looking at my food and the habits around my food that I started to unlock some of the ways I wanted to change in order to live better. So I'm going to get into that really specifically. When I was in my mid-20s, I was really reactive with my food and with my work stress. So I was learning to be a teacher. I was doing student teaching. I was tutoring on the side. And all of that work every day brought me to this place emotionally where I was just overstressed, overthinking about work, people pleasing at work. I didn't have any energy after work to feel like a person. And I know a lot of people are in that place, especially in their early adulthood. They're in a place where they have a lot of pressure to do, to overachieve at work and to make sure people are looking at them like they're competent. I think that's a big place where I was feeling I wanted everyone to see me as competent and confident. So all that is to say, I put a lot of energy into that. And that meant that I didn't put any energy into making sure there were good meals for myself, making sure I was having, some vegetables, some protein. None of that felt very important to me. And what I also think this did was it played right along into some of the ways I grew up around food, which were I didn't see food as like always available. It was always available, but the kinds of foods I wanted to eat, super hyper palatable foods like restaurant foods and really sweet foods that maybe other kids were bringing to their lunch, in school. I didn't feel like those were in my house. So those felt very high on a pedestal for me. I always felt like food was, a really highly charged, like delicious way to get a ton of happiness in a tiny little package. So I think those two things, overstress in work and feeling like food was a really easy way to get happiness, really kind of brought me into this place where I wasn't planning ahead for good and healthy food to take care of my health. And I used food after the workday and in the middle of the workday to just get a small dose of relaxation and happiness that I wasn't pre-planning for myself. So what this looked like in really stark terms was in the middle of the day, in between my morning work and my evening work, I would go to, a fast casual restaurant, fast food, and just get enough food to last me my whole lunch hour. And I would just use it to really calm down. After work, same thing. I was looking forward to getting pizza, Chinese food, takeout, in order to have a few hours to sit, watch TV, and numb out all that stress that I had given myself during the day. That's the place where I was. And I was 230 pounds. I was heavy. I was saying no to going out with friends, with family, because I was not feeling confident. I was not feeling energy enough to do those things. I was in a place where all of the ways I was treating food was bringing me to a place where I was saying no to life. So I think where this started to change and where I saw a huge turnaround was I emailed a cognitive behavioral therapist to see if we could try a session. I had never done therapy before, but I was seeing myself eating in a way that was just giving me so much guilt because I knew I wasn't treating myself well. I knew I wasn't behaving like an adult around food. That's how I felt. I felt I was just kind of, I had never learned how to feed myself well. And I felt that I was managing something with food. I didn't know what, but I felt I was not using it properly. So I started going to meet with a therapist weekly. And I think a huge turnaround was a question that she asked me near to the beginning of our working together. And that question was, it had nothing to do with deep reasons, deep feelings of stress, where my anxiety was coming from. It had nothing to do with that. It was a question of, well, do you think you can drink an extra glass of water each day this week? And my immediate reaction was like, yeah, of course I can do that. It's not going to fix anything. I'm still going to be in the same place I was. I didn't understand why she was asking it of me, but I did. For 7 days, I drank a little extra water. And then the next week she asked me, do you think you could, keep a food journal, maybe like write down the food that you're enjoying each day? And I said, of course I can. What these things did were they helped me focus on some actions that I knew that I could do that really got me curious about my health and how I was fueling myself, and got me curious about, well, okay, I can write down my food. I can learn a bit about what I'm doing. And it really helped me just start to every day have a little moment where I was proactively thinking of my health in a very easy way. It was not difficult. It was not full of judgment about myself. It was just a curious set of habits about my health. And I think this is what I want to connect with people on. Those were actions that I could do. I felt 100% certain that I could do them. It wasn't, do you think you can go to the gym 7 days a week? Do you think you could start eating 1,200 calories every day and try to lose weight every week? It wasn't that. It was 2 actions that were kind, curious, and 100% possible for me, and helped me pave the way and start to learn some skills that would help me stop using food as medicine for my stress and start using food as medicine for my health, for my body. It helped me start a meal prepping habit every Sunday, creating nice lunches for myself that had vegetables and protein. It started to help me, instead of using the evening to order takeout and to sit and veg out and not think about anything, it started to help me have a reasonable sized dinner each evening and then use the rest of the evening for relaxation that had nothing to do with food. I didn't need food that entire evening in order to decompress. What I really needed was rest and to be able to tell myself, you had a good day, you did your best. Now let's actually rest your body. Let's give it some food that it needs, but let's not, over overeat on takeout just to feel like you're calming your brain from the day. Let's not do that. Let's actually have a relaxing evening and do something that you enjoy. And over time, I was seeing my weight come down, my energy come back. And most importantly, I learned that I could start doing some daily habits, easy ones, and they would have a big impact on how I felt. And that just got me really fired up. I said, what other easy actions can have a big effect on how I feel each day? It made me really interested in creating small habit change in my routine to help continue that. Right now, where I am, approximately 6 years later, I have a set of daily habits and weekly habits that I do basically religiously. I do them without negotiating them away. It doesn't mean that I don't have a few days or weeks at some point where they're not possible. There's stress, or though there's traveling, or those holidays. But those core habits, tracking my food, getting extra water, getting more movement, preparing my meals or planning my meals over the weekend, those little proactive habits have created huge change, not just in my body, but in how I look at life. I realize I can do that in any place that I want to see a positive change. In my career, I've created huge change in my career because I've input stress relief habits that help me approach work with calmness and wanting to connect with people rather than stress and feeling like I have to please people. I've input that in my relationships, small habits to help my connection and communication with people. The power of deciding on small changes that you feel 100% capable of is so, I don't know, it's something that like you have to kind of try and start snowballing to really understand the impact of those tiny habits on your overall life in any place you want to see change. So that's really what I wanted to share most of all today. I wanted to talk to anyone who is in that place where they feel like they don't have much control over the stress of their life or the way they're using food or the way they're treating their health. If you're in that place, I want to share my story and how I found some places that were really easy to make changes and how that created a big transformation quite quickly over time. You don't have to do something hard. You don't have to do something that feels like it's impossible. You can do something really small, and that will create that change over time.
What a journey you've been on, Megan. What a fantastic journey. And it sounds to me like you came out on the other side positive, strong, and really clear about your relationship with food. So, when we were talking earlier, my experience with learning that food is medicine is when I collapsed with congestive heart failure. So, I went through a very stressful separation that led to divorce. It was a 31-year relationship, 27 years of marriage. And I took to food to hide my pain, to deal with the situation I was in, and ended up collapsing in a rice field in Indonesia.
Oh my goodness.
So a lot of times we turn to food not knowing the full impact of our actions and the repercussions thereafter. It's taken me a good 7 years to get back on my feet, to be able to walk and function. And I am slowly hoping to wean myself off the blood pressure medication. It's still been a bit of a challenge, but your health is your wealth. And just being aware of how powerful food is has really helped me. So, How has your background in teaching influenced your approach to coaching and facilitating wellness and weight management?
I think I'm so glad that I had a training as a teacher, because what the reason I went towards teaching in the first place was, I mean, one, it was because I felt maybe it was possible for me. Maybe I felt like I had the skills to do it. But I think why I was strong in teaching was because I have a really strong kind of emotional connection. I feel like I'm really tuned in to how people are feeling at any given point. And I want to create a warm environment that helps someone, approach learning in a calm and safe way. So I use my kind of emotional intelligence to do that. And I think with coaching, it's very similar. When you employ a coach, you have something you want to learn, skills you want to learn, and a goal you want to hit. But you sense that there's a block, and that might have a lot to do with not just your knowledge, but how you're approaching a situation, how you're thinking about a situation. And of course, how we're thinking about a situation has a lot to do with how we feel about that result we want. So in a coaching session, someone's feelings about whether it's possible for them to get to that result can have an impact on how they're strategizing to get there. So I really like to tune into how someone's feeling, understand the beliefs that they might have about trying to do the actions that get them to the result. And help them understand the beliefs that they have, and ask them whether those are beliefs that they want to keep, whether those beliefs are really helpful, or there's a change that they want to make. Because I think in my journey, I did have some belief changes about myself. I used to think I'm not an exercise person. I'm a foodie. I love to, get my meal and finish that whole plate. Like I keep up with the boys. Like that was my belief about myself. And now my beliefs are, I like to eat in a way that makes me feel energetic. I like to eat in a way that makes sure I can get those lovely tastes that I like, but have a reasonable portion that fits my body's needs, because I value being able to get around and say yes to activities, to traveling. I want to feel good enough to do those things. And now I don't think of myself as an exercise person. I think of myself as someone who loves nature, who loves to get outside and walk, and who loves to, So I think those beliefs are, in order to change them, you really need to have some emotional intelligence and to see where they came from and ask yourself if you want to change them. So that's why I went towards teaching in the first place. And that's a big reason why I feel like my draw towards coaching is because we can really dive into how we feel about something, how that impacts how we think about it, and where we have the power to change those things. That's the coolest part, that those things can be changed over time.
And you've really reframed the whole situation. It's really quite fascinating to hear you speak. So why do you believe that habit change is essential in achieving wellness and weight management goals? And how do you help your clients develop these new habits? Habits are hard to break.
Habits are very hard to break, but they're easier to replace, I think. But I think habits are it's just the way that we think about what we do on the average day, right? Like what we do on 90 to 95% of our days. So when people think about, losing weight, our ideas first are kind of, at least, I don't know, in Western society, I think it's kind of like, we're going to do something different for 3 months or 6 months. And then we're going to kind of, end it. We've reached the goal. That's it. So you really think about, okay, I got to go crazy with my exercise in that time. I got to eat much less in that time. And then I'll be done. then I can just do whatever I was doing before. But
Mm-hmm.
the approach of habits is really different because it assumes that we're changing how the average day goes. And if 95% of our days are like that, that's a
Mm-hmm.
huge mathematical change in what we're doing. And it should stay in your life. It should be designed to stay in your life rather than end when the 6-month time period is up. So when we think about what new habit we want to change, so for instance, for me, food journaling was a really helpful habit.
Mm-hmm.
That habit was, it only takes 10 minutes, like maybe 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening. But what that habit helped me do was create a ritual of planning each day. I'm going to have some vegetables in the morning, some some protein in the evening. It helped me really make a big change in my overall eating. And I think that if someone picks a few small habits in their day, like maybe one in the morning, like they're inserting them into their already existing schedule, it creates a really big change in, in how they're being proactive about their health. So some big ways that I help people develop habits is either replacing or habit stacking. So I love habit stacking because it allows you to not have to overthink making a new habit. So it's really difficult when you're first building a habit to stick with it because we're on autopilot all the time. Like we always go from, waking up to brushing your teeth to turning on the coffee pot to putting your shoes on to going out the door. And habit stacking puts whatever new habit you want to do next to a habit that you already do every day. So it makes it easier to get that consistent really quickly. So with my food journaling, I always put my plan in my food journal while I was drinking my coffee because I was never going to skip that coffee. So that habit was always going to happen. So that's what we kind of do. We identify a place that always happens. So maybe for some people, it's in the evening. They always, turn on the dishwasher before they go in to get ready for bed. So if they want to have a new habit, they turn on the dishwasher, they make their lunch for the next day, and they go to bed. So that's how I love to help people really focus on that beginning part when they're building the habit and it's easiest to fall off.
Yeah, so that's interesting to hear, because one of the things that I found with journaling was just being aware of what I was putting in my mouth. Having a food journal kind of showed me how much I was consuming. And the person who was helping me suggested that each time I felt hungry, I'd have a glass of water first. Because sometimes you think you're hungry, yet you're just thirsty and your body's asking for something, and we reach out for food immediately. So substituting those hunger pangs with a glass of water totally changed everything for me.
I love that. And the fact that the food journal helped you see that habit, and your friend or the person who told you about food journaling also connected that that you almost had a stimulus of, either thirst or discomfort, and you were used to going to food right away for it. And then instead you created a very conscious change of, when I feel that, I go to water first, then food if I need it. And just that small impulse, that change in your reaction, I love that. It created such a big change. I think for me, I love that. For me, I had a very kind of similar thing because I was used to going to food when I was feeling, it could have been anything. Really, throughout the day, I was used to just always looking forward to the next instance for food because it would let me get something really delicious that would make me feel happy in the moment. So I would just associate it with relaxing, calming, and happy. And what I needed in those moments, like you had needed some water or you had needed a pause there. I think what I needed was kind of a calm, a moment to tell myself, like, that things are okay. You might be over stressing about something, but generally you're safe. I needed that practice to really remember that I was safe in my body. And I think when I started doing the food journal, it helped me first plan the regular meals.
Yeah.
And that was good. I wasn't doing that before. And two, it helped me in between those regular meals prompt me to do something else rather than food. So for me, I learned to do a morning meditation habit that really helped me calm my thoughts, calm my body. I really learned to, try other things in those moments. Maybe it was like reaching out to a friend, talking to my partner, going for a walk, giving myself a break from the work I was doing that was stressing me out. All of those things were they're more helpful than just going to food to calm down.
Yeah.
They were more proactive habits. They were more healthy impulses. Like you had said, the water was something that your body had needed. That was a more healthy response to that, whatever the stimulus was. So I love the food journal because it helped me see where I needed those healthier responses.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. Really, really quite fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about the strategic use of data. You emphasize the importance of using good quality data in decision making. Can you explain how you incorporate data into your coaching practices?
Yes, I really love collecting information about the average day, right? About how well people are doing the actions they want to do in order to reach their goal. So, for
Right.
example, if someone's goal is weight management, they're trying to stay a healthy weight or lose weight, the actions that really help that each day are planning the food ahead of time, journaling the food so that you understand what you're taking in and you know that you're eating in a way that actually makes sense for weight loss or weight management. Usually that's portions, tracking portions. And then also how well you're doing the movement related habits. So if you said you were going to go for a walk, how many times did that actually happen? So my favorite thing is to reach the end of a month and be able to see what percentage of time, you hit your walking goal 90% of the time, you hit your food journal goal 93% of the time, but you notice you hit your, hydration goal, your water goal, only 30% of the time. Those numbers really help us see, okay, so what's the most obvious place we want to focus on improvement? Where can we make a little jump up in success? Probably that water goal. So I love collecting that daily information, like day 1, water, good, walk, good, food journal, good. Day 2, water, good, food journal, bad. I love collecting those small data points. And then by the end of the month or the end of 2 months, you have a whole, set of information that helps you approach your weight loss journey with a really good understanding of what you were doing and what the next positive step up is. I think that data helps us get a good baseline for where you are now and helps you make a reasonable change rather than trying to go crazy and hitting a really high achieving goal right away. It helps you make a reasonable step upwards towards your goal.
What strategies do you use to help your clients overcome food guilt and find a balance between the healthiest and most enjoyable life?
So I'm very passionate about not cutting out foods, especially when those foods are something we truly love. Like we're all human. We all have tastes that we like. We all have foods that we find really lovely, really fun. And we're all human. We're all celebrating with food sometimes. So each culture has its own kind of celebratory foods that we might really look forward to. So I see those foods as part of life, and they're also fun. I call them fun foods. And I don't ever want to make a change that means I can't truly engage in that fun stuff. If our goal is weight management, we're probably going to enjoy the fun foods in much smaller portions, or in some level. We're going to take the portions down at some point. But a lot of diets approach, weight loss in let's cut out all the fun stuff and focus only on the nutritious stuff. And I think that has created a big shift and a big kind of morality lens on how we look at those fun foods. I think it turns those fun foods into demons. It turns them into, we can't have them. If we've had them, the day is shot. And that means I'm not being healthy at all. And that means I'm off the wagon. And so I'm very adamant that the fun foods need to stay in your life, especially if they bring you some kind of fulfillment and connection with people. So let's find a way to bring them into your life in smaller portions and in ways you can really enjoy them. And then it really kind of frees you up to the other 80% of the time, get into those nutritious foods and make sure they're in your life more often. So I really think that making sure we don't cut out those fun foods can help the answer back that feeling of like, I had the cookies today. I'm feeling that guilt. It helps us remember like those foods can absolutely fit in a healthy lifestyle. Let's figure out when and how much, and we'll aim for that. Like, let's figure out what's an improvement on what you were doing before, and let's aim for that improvement and make sure every second of the time you're enjoying them, you remind yourself, these are fun foods and I'm having them on purpose because life is a little more fun with them in it.
How do compassion and emotional intelligence and listening skills play a role in your coaching sessions, and why are they important?
I think that the way that many people think about personal training or I think that many people think about personal training and weight loss in kind of a punitive way. Like it's very like, I'm going to hop on and talk to my trainer or my coach, and they're going to say, you did good here and you did bad here. Here's where we need to push. And what I think that does is it, one, causes a lot of unnecessary urgency, because really we have our whole lives to work on our health. Like we're always going to be thinking about our health. So we might as well do it in a nice and compassionate way. And two, it creates this punishing atmosphere where you almost feel like there's someone overlooking you and judging what you're able to do. I don't think that environment is it makes life change very easy at all. I think it makes you feel like you can't be trusted. So my coaching approach is very much based on, we're a team looking at this goal you want to do together. How can I help you make those belief changes and those thought changes that you want to make to get closer to that goal? So compassion plays a huge role in that, because no one's going to get there having done every action perfectly. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things you did that you would do differently next time. It doesn't make sense to look at those things like, that was a terrible mistake you made. How are we going to never make that again? It makes so much more sense to look at that like, well, what was happening at that time when you did that action that worked against your goal? What were you feeling? What were you thinking? What beliefs might have played a role in that? And what's within our power to change? That's the compassionate way to look at that. Like, how would you like to approach it differently? Would you like to? you don't have to change at all. Would you like to change? If so, let's problem solve a way to do it. So I think, I think it just makes sense to approach life changes with calmness, no urgency, and compassion. I think change is much easier from those places.
It is definitely. So my last two questions are going to be a bit of a time experiment. I'm going to first teleport you to the past to go back and have a conversation with the younger you, the young woman who was struggling with weight loss, with food control. If I could take you back to go and talk to her and give her 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would you say to her?
I would say to my past self, especially right before she started getting help, I would say you do not have to change into someone completely different in order to feel healthier, lose weight, and handle food differently. You don't have to change into someone completely different. You can make a small step towards change, and you're still going to be amazing you. You're still going to be Megan, who's awesome, who's smart, who does her best at work, who is kind, and who loves her family and friends. You don't have to change any of that about yourself. So I would say that, 1. 2, I would say it's going to be a long road. So settle in and make it fun, like get curious, make mistakes. It's not as dire that you be successful every moment. Like, it's not that dire. So have fun with it, I think, is what I would say. And 3rd, I think I would say reach out more to friends and family, because I think that was always I always wanted to struggle in silence. I always wanted to fix something first before sharing with other people what I was trying to do or what I had accomplished. I wanted to be very independent that way. And I think now I've really taught myself to go to friends and family, not just for help, but for laughing and fun and connection. And that just helps our health as well. So I think I would say reach out more, even if it's not for help, just be more with people. And I think that's great advice for most people, especially us introverts who default to stepping back and being within ourselves. Challenge yourself to keep connecting with other people, because that's a big part of health that a lot of us introverts don't want to admit that it's important for health, but it is.
I love it. Now let me teleport you into the future, and we're going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. She is sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her dogs, her cats, her grandchildren, whoever's going to be there with you at the end. If you could go and talk to this wise woman, based on how you're living your life right now and how she's guiding you to that point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Ooh, I love this question. I've never heard it before. I think I would ask her, what are you thankful that I focused on? What are you glad that I did for you? Like, what are you glad that I really worked on so that you, 90-year-old Megan, could have a nice, 90-year-old time? That would be the main thing I would ask her. Yeah, I'm really curious about that. I always want to do more of what, helps me live more life. So I always want to focus on my health so that I can travel and connect with my family and friends for as long as possible, and say yes to things, not say no because I don't feel up for it physically. So I'm curious as to see, with my 90-year-old self, what she's thankful that I did for her. I don't know. Maybe she'd have something fun to say.
I love to ask that question, Megan, because a lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in them. She's already guiding you. She is that little voice in your head that says, go left, go right, say yes, say no, look for
Mm.
help. She's already there, but we forget it sometimes.
Oh,
So I love to play with the energy of who I am becoming. I talk to
mm,
her all the time. And when I get stuck in life, I go into my meditation, my prayers, and I ask her simple questions like, what is the next step? I'm stuck.
mm.
And the answer comes through my dreams sometimes. Sometimes I bump into somebody and I tell them what I'm working on, and they'll say something. And by the end of the day, I've got the solution. But it's all about playing with the essence of who we are becoming. We
Mm.
have the solution to all of our own problems. We were born wired with all of the solutions as well, but we just need to look inside for those answers.
Oh, my shoulders just dropped in calmness. Thank you for saying that. Oh, that was wonderful.
I love it. Megan, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your story with us today. How can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I share a lot of strategies and tips. And I also have a free meal planning club on Instagram in case you want to save that time every week, make a habit for yourself, and plan those meals ahead of time. So my Instagram handle is partake_foodie, PARTAKE_foodie.
Fantastic. Megan, thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The Her Story Circle is a social impact movement bringing you stories of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, inspire you, energize you, and empower you. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and bye for now. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.